everyone, it's Lisa from My Dream in Soap. Welcome to my channel. Now it's soap challenge time again today. And for this soap challenge, we had to do a challenge using impression mats. Now, before I get on to the whole impression mat thing, I've got a very exciting, lovely new slab mould. Now, this is the Jupiter slab mould from Custom Craft Tools. It's lovely. I'm not sure what this is, some sort of plasticky material around the edge, sort of fake wood material, but it's a beautiful mould. I was lucky enough to win a recent soap challenge that Custom Craft Tools were sponsoring, so I used my first prize in the winners category to go towards me buying this slab mould, and it's arrived. They sent it out lovely and quickly in time for me to use for this challenge, so I'm really excited to be using this, and it's beautiful quality, as everything is that you get from Alex and Alex at Custom Craft Tools. Okay, so there's my mould that I'm going to be using for the first time, and I'm very excited about that. Before we get onto the impression mat, the first thing I want to do is make some embeds for the main body of my soap, because obviously the impression mat is just going to be on the surface and I want something going all the way through the soap. So I've mixed up the soap that I need. This is just coloured with titanium dioxide and some activated charcoal. The fragrance oil I'm using is Sauvage, and I get mine from Craftivator in the UK. So let's just get that added in. And what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to do an impression mat of a wolf, and I want some birch trees behind the wolf. So the idea is when the wolf impression wears off of the soap, I will still have a pretty soap with all birch trees or birch tree trunks in it. So this is what me just making what I need for my birch trees. Now, ideally, I don't want the whole soap behind to be birch trees. I want to see trunks. So what I really need is to do half of this mould with birch trees in to about the thickness that I'm going to pour the soap. I'm only going to do it 1 bar thick, because obviously I need the impression mat on the top and I can't do lots of bars thick. So I'm going to do that. And I thought, oh, I'll block off the mould. But then I decided what I'll do is I'll actually just do the whole mould, as I only want half of it full, but pour it half as thick as I need. Does that make sense? And then what I'll do is I'll have 2 layers of birch trees and I'll just stack them on top of each other. That saves me trying to go through the whole rigmarole of trying to like block off a mould. Now, my impression mat is going to be, so the soaps are this way, so I'm just going to, let me think, birch trees, I want the stripes going across like that. Yes, so I do need to pour it like that. I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting it poured the right way. Okay, so I'm going to do this a bit like a thin lines pour, because a birch tree has those little lines of just black in it, don't they? So I'm just going to put a little bit of black on here, so that I get some black lines as I pour this soap. Okay, that seems to be working pretty well. Okay, and what I've done is I've done 90% white and 10% black here. Okay, so that's coming out quite black at the start. I'm just spreading that out a bit more. Now, what will happen in the soap with this is that you actually won't see many of these birch trees on the sort of face of the soap as it's made, but then as the soap gets used and that my wolf impression wears out, then you will start to see these coming through, and these will be left in the bar, just so it doesn't end up being a boring plain bar of soap at the end. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. That's worked really nicely. Okay, so as I cut through there, can you see there'll be like the bits of the birch tree that have the sort of black marks on it. So that's done now. I'm going to pop this into my heated cupboard overnight and pop that, and then we'll turn that into the rest of the soap, and we'll look at my impression mat that I've made tomorrow as well. Right, we're back for our second day, and we're going to be looking at the impression mat today. Now, for the soap challenge, we were allowed to just use a ready-made impression mat, or we had the option to make our own and try and make a unique impression mat. So I wanted to make my own impression mat, and this is the impression mat that I've produced. It's a wolf head design. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole making process. I'm just going to explain it quite quickly. The first thing I did was I created some little 3D wolf heads. Now, this was, to me, one of the things that was really important was, if you were creating an impression mat, it's not right to just take something that someone else has designed. So if you've got a design like an imprinted sheet or another impression mat and just literally copied that and used it to make more impression mats, to me that was wrong. So it was about either using something like, so for example, if you bought one of those roller things that have impressions on them, those are made by people who are selling them for you to be able to reproduce and use that pattern. If you were buying something that wasn't actually a tool to reproduce the pattern, then you're probably looking at copyright problems. So you should never just make a mould or rip off a mould or something that someone else has created. So I got these wolf heads. Now, I must admit, I did actually pay to use this wolf head design, and it was actually something of the design that I purchased that people could buy to make products with. So it was something that someone had designed, and they were selling the right to use it to create other products. So it's perfectly okay for me to use this. So I got my design, and then I 3D printed a whole bunch of them, more than this. I 3D printed 20 of them. And then, I don't normally make my impression mats like this, but I got some of that 2-part silicone putty, a bit like Play-Doh stuff, moulded it all together and rolled it out as flat as I possibly could, and then I sunk my wolves in it and pushed them down and rolled them in and left that to go off. It worked pretty well. One of the things I found is, because this is such a big impression mat, I struggled to get my putty rolled down. I had to have a few goes at it, and each time I had to knead it back together because it wasn't quite going to the right shape, because this was pretty well all the putty I had, so I had to stretch it quite thin. I ended up getting a few little air bubbles trapped, and I don't know if you can see, I've got a few, you know, little divots in here where there are some air bubbles. I'm hoping that's not going to be a problem, because it doesn't matter to me if my soap surface isn't completely smooth, and obviously some of them were obviously got rid of by me putting my wolf in. So anyway, that's my wolfy impression mat, and I'm really pleased with that. So that's going to go in the bottom of my mould, and we'll look at what I'm going to do with that in a minute. Let's start doing our impression mat now. So what I've done is I've mixed up a very tiny amount of soap, and now this is far more than I need, because I'm just literally going to do this for the eyes of the wolves. But let's face it, I couldn't have mixed up like 5 ml of soap that I needed. So this is just some golden shimmer with a touch of sunshine yellow in it to make it a little yellowy gold for the eye. And I'm just going to go into each of these wolves' eyes and just very gently just dob in just this tiniest bit of gold to create, hopefully, that will show us the eye. Right, so it's now time to fill in the rest of the wolf. So I've got my antique silver in here. I did put a little bit of TD in that, so it's a lighter grey, and then some activated charcoal in here. None of these are fragrance, because this is a very small amount. It's not going to affect the fragrance of the soap. I'm going to put a little bit extra in the soap. Now, these aren't fragranced. That's because I've made more than I need, I think. And with them not being fragranced, I can then use it for soap dough afterwards. So I'm just going to go in and start filling in these walls. I'm going to put some little noses in first. And then I'm just going to start sort of feathering in the other colours, sort of a bit lighter in some areas and a bit darker in others. And each time I do it, I'm going to try and keep away from the area I've just done, so that has a little bit of time to set.
Maybe the birds will sing about your heart. Maybe the trees will whisper the word. Maybe the sun will spread your joy to the ones who lost their hope. You fill my head with roses. I can't help but dream away, standing on a field with you and flowers everywhere. Dreaming of you. Dreaming of you, 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 dreaming of you. What if the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars. Dreaming of you.
Let's start making these beech trees then. So this was the soap that I made yesterday. So I'm just going to slice it into lines. Now I tried to think about, I was going to do it hand cut so that the trees weren't all completely straight. But I thought, oh, if I end up going all wobbly and whatever, then it will look a mess. So I am just going to go through with my Custom Craft Tools cutter. So I get everything nice and the same. And, you know, even if they don't lay in the mould evenly, then that will look quite cool. I can always sort of squidge them about a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to keep cutting off these strips like this, and then this will become what will hopefully sort of look like my beech trees. I've cut up all my beech tree strips, so now I want to get them in my mould, and I need to stack one on top of the other. Now I did have a couple of skinny bits at the end, so I'm just going to put these in first as a little skinny bit. They will fit in exactly because I made them in this mould. So I'm going to put one in like that, and then take the other bit and just stack that on top. So these are going to be quite thick bars of soap, but they are slightly smaller than the soaps I'd make, so the thickness will make up for that. Okay, so it'll end up with sort of this thickness, kind of the two pieces together. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to put one piece down first, just so I can make sure I'm spreading them out okay. Let me just check. I don't want to have to lift them up and start again. So there we are with the back of our soaps. As you can see, I put them in a little bit tight there and then a bit more spaced out there, but that's fine. The rest of the gaps will just fill with soaps, and some of them will have a few more birch trees and some of them will have slightly less, and that's nice that they're all a little bit different. So all I've got to do now is mix up my soap, and I'm just going to be doing a blue soap behind this, and this is going to be using Shimmer Blue from Micah Mama. I'm just going to get that mixed up and then we'll just pour that in to finish it off. Let's finish off this soap then by carefully pouring in this Shimmer Blue that I've got. So I'm just going to pour it just sort of go between all of these birch trees, sorry, not beech trees.
Like that. Closer, I'ma get closer to you. Yeah, got me, baby, got me hooked on you once again. Girl, I need you. How many times do I want you? 'Cause we could be so complete. Baby, I'll never want anyone new. I was on your bed and you undressed. Baby, when I pulled you in and felt your breath, then I knew the girl I need you. You're smiling like that, I could never resist it. Smiling like that, I could never resist it. Smiling like that, I could never resist it.
So there we are with the back of our soap. I've cleaned off the birch trees a little bit, but I can do a little bit more of that when we've actually cut it. And I'm pretty pleased with that. I think that does look like a nice soap, even though this is basically what it's going to look like all the way through. And then on the front we'll have the impression of the wolf. So I'm going to put this away and then we will cut it tomorrow. Normally for a slab I would normally leave it for a good 2 or 3 days. I need to cut this tomorrow because it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, and the submission deadline for me is 8 o'clock in the afternoon, evening tomorrow. Convert that into US time. So once again, I'm quite tight for time, so I do need to cut this fairly quickly. So I'm going to pop this away and get this cut tomorrow and then photographed and then entered. Right, we're back the next day and I'm a little bit early to unmold this just because of the time pressure that I've got today. So I think I sort of finished this, oh gosh, mid-afternoon yesterday, 3-4 o'clock, and it's now about 8 o'clock the next morning. So that's fine. It unmolded from the silicone mould all right, and I'm just hoping that I'm not pushing my luck too much. We're trying to pull off this silicone impression mat now, but we'll find out in a moment. So let's have a go. Should we go from the top? I'm trying to think of where would be the best place so you can see. Oh no, it just looks like it's coming nice and clean. First wolf. Actually, it's coming off pretty well. Oh, look. Haha. Yay. None of them seem to be coming up with a problem. Yes, there we go. Yeah, let's pull that really beautifully cleanly. Look at those walls are pulling off nice and cleanly. Ta-da! Ah, I'm really pleased with that. That's come out really well. It looks a bit overly stripy, I think, when I first look at it, and then certainly when I look at it at the camera. I'm hoping that when I get into smaller bars, it will be less stripy. But yeah, I'm really pleased with those. Those have come out really well, and I'm glad I did the eye. The eye stayed where it was nicely, so that's really good. Right, so now what I want to do is I want to chop this up into bars. So I'm going to use my cutter from Custom Craft Tools again. I'm just going to measure this out and then get it cut. Right, I set my Custom Craft Tools Caterpillar up to slice my bars. I'm just going to check if I've got them the right width. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this way first of all. So let's get these sliced. Okay, so there's our first row that's come off. Okay, so those are our 5, let's call them middle mini loaves, shall we? Okay, and now I'm just going to finish off by slicing them to get individual bars. Now with this cutter you can obviously chop them off at the end. Don't know if to do that. I quite like not having to measure, so I'm just going to go through and cut them like this. Yay! Oh, I really like those. I think they've come out really nicely. Okay, so there we are. I think they look really lovely. I'm really pleased with those. I do like the impression mat, and I'm glad I've sort of... Why I'm so late is because I was waiting for this mould to arrive, and Custom Craft Tools were fabulous. They got it to me because I'm obviously... They're in the US and I'm in the UK, and they got it to me super fast after I asked them for it. So that was perfect. And that's what's delayed me a little bit and made me a little bit late. But I wanted to make an impression mat in a mould that I could then use again and again and again, rather than just sort of doing one just to sort of tide me over. So here are all our walls that we've got. Now what I've got to do to prepare them for the challenge club, normally I like to let them sit for a couple of days, because I always find soap sort of then, you know, the colour all equalises, the rest of the moisture comes out of them, and they get a little bit more of a shine to them at that point. But I'm kind of stuck. I've got to get these up and posted. So I am just going to bevel the edges of them and then get some photographs taken. If I've got time, I will obviously add some photos to the bit of the beveled soaps to the end of this video, but I may not, because I'm a bit pushed for time. So if you don't see me again for the rest of this video, thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I do hope that you like the soap. If you'd like to see what I'm making in the future, why not subscribe to my channel? Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy soaping.